Hello, so today I would like to share a project that I've been working on and also an answered prayer that goes along with that, and just a few other thoughts and things that we've been doing this week. So before I made this book for Lydia, I did publish one book and I paid a lot of money to publish it, but because it costs a lot of money and also it can be very hard to try to find a publisher, I haven't written many books, and yeah, I do have more books that I would like to write. So when I did this one for Lydia, I found out that I could do them on Amazon and it doesn't actually cost any money, and you also don't have to, try to search to find a publisher. So since I've done that, I have been thinking about the other books that I'd like to write. So I started to pray about it. And anyway, so for the last few weeks, I've been working really hard to get another one finished, which is a compilation of the blogs that I've written on my Encouragement for Busy Mums blog. I've written on there for the last 10 years. And there's a lot of different devotionals and poems on there which I've compiled to make into another book. So now I already have a way to publish it and I kind of know how to do it now, but I needed money to edit it. Because last time with this one it cost, at least $1,000 just to get it really thoroughly edited. And last time the money just came in the mail unexpectedly from somebody. So I've been praying that God would provide the money so that I could get this book edited. And then the next thing I knew, I had a job at school. And so God answered that prayer by giving me a job to do. Now, in one of my last videos, I think it might have been the one where God provides, I said how sometimes He provides in different ways than we expect. Sometimes it involves a lot of work, like we might have to work for it. So it's definitely He answered it in a way that I didn't expect. I didn't expect that I would get a job and work for it, although it doesn't actually feel like work looking after my own child. But it reminds me of something I read once, which I wrote down in my journal, and it is from Streams in the Desert Devotional, and it's about how God often does things in a different way than we expect. It says, "It is by no means enough to set out cheerfully with your God on any venture of faith. Tear into smallest pieces any itinerary for the journey which your imagination may have drawn up. Nothing will fall out as you expect. Your guide will keep to no beaten path. He will lead you by a way such as you never dreamed your eyes would look upon. He knows no fear, and He expects you to fear nothing while He is with you." So, God answered that prayer by giving me a job to do, and I think I'll earn more than enough to pay to get it edited. And another thing I've been praying for is a name, to name my book. I don't want to call it Encouragement for Busy Mums because that straight away excludes anybody who's not a mum. When I first started my blog, I named it Encouragement for Busy Mums because I was a new mum and I found it really difficult. And so I wanted to share anything I found helpful or encouraging with other mums to try to encourage them. But now I would kind of like to change the name because a lot of the lessons on there are not particularly for mums. They're really applied to anybody. But I don't want to change the name because then people might not be able to find it again. So my blog does say for mums, but it really is for anybody who would find those lessons helpful. But I didn't want to put anything on my name of the book about mums because I want it to be for anybody. So I've been praying about a name, and the other day I was at Ladies Bible Study. We've been studying the story of Hannah, and I had shared quite a few lessons that I'd learnt from the study. And when I was finished, one of the other mums there said, "Do you have any more pearls to share?" Now, I've never thought before as the lessons that I learned from the Bible as being pearls, but because that person said it, I started to think about it. And when I got home from Bible study, my husband started listening to a sermon which was about that parable about the precious pearl. And so the man on the sermon was talking about pearls as well. And so because I'd heard it 2 times in like half an hour, I started to think about it and whether that I could use that in a name for my book. But I still wasn't really sure, and I didn't actually really like the name. But I was praying about it yesterday morning as I was having my quiet time, and the thought came to me, well, where do pearls come from? And I remember somebody telling me once that pearls come from irritations. I have a very bad memory, but this is what I wrote down because I was looking up yesterday morning about how pearls are formed. And what I wrote down says, pearls are made by marine oysters and freshwater mussels as a natural defense against an irritant, such as a parasite entering their shell or a damage to their fragile body. The pearl only happens when sand gets inside an oyster and irritates it. And when I look back, because I've been going through all my old blog posts, because I've been compiling them and kind of reading over them and editing them, I've noticed that a lot of them are from irritations or from the hard things, even just little hard things like, your baby being up in the night, or I think my very first devotional in this book is about Hannah waking up at 3 o'clock and how I learned to rejoice and to make the most of the day rather than being, grumpy. And so, a lot of them are through irritants. So I have decided that I will use that name in my book, but it is an encouragement to think that pearls are made through irritants. And the things, the pearls that we learn, like our having good character, learning patience and trust and faith in God, they come about through the hard times. Just like there would be no pearls without any irritants, we wouldn't learn much without any hard times. So, if you have irritations or hard things in your life, be thankful for them and ask God to help them to make pearls in you. So when we were studying Hannah, one of the things that I learned most from it is just how she gave Samuel up to God. Like, she made that vow when she was desperately praying for a child. And it's easy to make a vow when you're praying for something, when you're really desperately praying for something, but it's a lot harder to actually follow through on that promise or that vow. And she did follow through on it. She did give Samuel to God just as she had promised. And I know God doesn't always give us what we want, like He gave to Hannah. I know there are people who have prayed for children and haven't been able to have children. But, what I see from it is that she was willing to give him up. And when she did give him up, God gave her 5 more children, which is quite neat. She didn't know she was going to get any more children. She gave up the one thing that she prized the most, which was the gift that God had given her as a child. And she gave it back to God, and God filled her arms with more children. And that's a really neat picture of how, if we hang on to things tightly. I was reading a verse the other day which says, whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. So if we try to hang on to things, we end up losing them. Whereas if we are willing to lose them for God, He gives them back to us. And maybe not always in He didn't give Samuel back to Hannah. Samuel still stayed at the temple, but God gave her more children. And in some way, God gives back what we give to Him. Maybe not in the way that we expect or the way that we want, but if we do not hold on tightly to things that God has given us, if we just give them back to God, then God gives back to us in some way. Another thought I've been thinking of this week is the verse, His yoke is easy, His burden is light. I listened to a podcast a while ago, and it was about being thankful. But one of the ladies who was talking on the podcast made a comment that God's yoke is always easier than her own. And so I was thinking about that, like, how is Jesus' yoke easier than our own? What I think it means is that when we do things in our own strength, it is very hard. But when we're like in a yoke with Jesus, when we have His help, then it is a lot easier because we're just following Him and He gives us the strength and the help and all that we need to do it. And although serving God is not always easy, it is a lot easier than doing things our own way and try to figure out things for ourselves. And I think sometimes too, God has less things for us to do than what we try to do ourselves. If we try to plan everything, sometimes we have a lot more things to do than what He wants us to do. So there's a song I was listening to. I knew the chorus of a song, His yoke is easy, His burden is light. So I was looking it up and trying to find it. And I would like to make it into a music video, but right now I don't really have time to make it into a music video. But the chorus goes, His yoke is easy, His burden is light. I've found it so, I've found it so. Serving Jesus is my delight, the greatest joy that I know. So although serving Jesus is not easy, His yoke is easy and His burden is light. Because if we're doing it with Him, we have all His strength, all His wisdom and help that we need. And that phrase, serving Jesus is my delight, the greatest joy I know. I pray that it may be true for me and also for you.
What?